starting.
Okay. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. I'm actually going to log out rather than start this way, just so you see the complete steps. Okay, so www.sbcimplementation.com is the URL to access the website. You will see sort of a generic looking login page that looks like this. You should already have an invitation to the website. If you don't, let Maria know and I can resend it to you. If you've gotten the invitation but haven't clicked it yet, like logged in for the first time, it could be expired. Not a big deal. These welcome emails do expire pretty quickly. So when you get it, try to go ahead and log in. If you can, set your permanent password, but it's not a problem for me to resend it. So I'm just going to log in like I normally do. This is my email address. If you don't have it, write it down and don't hesitate to reach out with questions. Okay, so I'm logging in. This is what it does. Spins. It seems a little slow today. Maybe lots of people are entering data. Okay, so we have a demonstration kind of account here that I'll be using. This is not an actual user. We have very creatively named him Joe Supervisor. So I'm going to impersonate Joe Supervisor. Supervisors are the main users of this website. So I'll be demonstrating it from a supervisor's point of view. Joe logs in, he's going to land on a page called his projects page. If you are a supervisor and you log in and you don't see the projects page, just look for the tab that says projects, click it. You'll get a list of projects that are assigned to you. As a supervisor, you typically will only have access to one project and that is your own. So you should just see your own name here under current projects. So there it is, Joe Supervisor. So the reason that Joe is logging in today is because he has some work products to score that his caseworkers have submitted to him. So he's ready to score. He's clear about what proficiency looks like on these work products. A supervisor should not score unless they're absolutely sure what proficiency means on each of these work products and field observations. So you should be practicing that in your agency. Maybe you've been a supervisor of SBC for a long time and you're clear about it. The certification manual is a great reference for that as well. This is why he's here, because he has something to score. So what Joe is going to do is he's going to click his name under projects. Click. He's going to see a dashboard. Just ignore all of this. If you're just here for the simple purpose of scoring, you're going to go to list. When you go to list, you'll see your entire team on a list. We have made this team pretty small. Joe sees his own name and a list of case consultations under his name. Then he's going to see his caseworkers, Sandy and Steve. So let's say Sandy has submitted her first genogram family discussion guide for scoring. So Joe has that in front of him in hard copy or an electronic version of it. He's going to score it. So he's going to look for the links tab. So 3 tabs to remember: projects first, then list, then links. Links is where all the score sheets can be found. He clicks the one he wants. In this case, he's scoring the genogram family discussion guide. A new window pops up. It's one page, and Joe's just going to fill that out. Caseworker name, supervisor name, a case ID number. He's going to choose the location of this worker from a drop-down menu. There's a bunch of them there. And then he has 2 options on each question. either not proficient or proficient. So he goes through each one and he selects the grade, I guess, for each question. We're going to make her proficient on all of these. Sandy's excellent on the Genogram Family Discussion Guide. It asks for some comments about the work product. So you're just going to type in a sentence or two about the performance on this particular work product. Then you're going to give an overall rating for this work product. If you score it as proficient, then all these other questions need to also be scored as proficient. So 100% is required for an overall rating of proficient. That's it. Joe clicks submit. If he forgets to fill in an item, it prompts you. So you can't submit it unless it's completely filled out. But assuming it is completely filled out, he clicks submit, and this score sheet data goes to another database that I'll show you in just a moment. But that's basically it. He's done the score sheet. He's going to look for his, I'm going back to the tab here, takes me back to the website. I'm going to go to my list again. Because Sandy was proficient on this particular work product, I'm going to check it off. So she has accomplished the first item towards SBC certification. She does not need to submit another Genogram Family Discussion Guide for certification purposes if this is proficient, and in her case, it was. So Joe's done, unless he has other work products to score. If he does, he goes back to the links tab, looks for the score sheet he needs. They're all here. There are 8 of them. He clicks the one he wants and completes that exact process again. Just fills it out and submits. This is the one thing that cannot be undone on this website is once you submit it, it's gone from this website. So make sure that whatever you're putting on the score sheet is accurate. If there's an error on it, we can fix it on our end, not a big deal. But that I just wanted to mention, that's the one thing that you cannot undo. Going back, I went back to my links page again, then back to my list, which is my team. Notice that that one item under Sandy, Genogram Family Discussion Guide, has disappeared because it's been checked off. It went here. So if I click that, it reappears. I'm going to uncheck that since this is just a demonstration, and there it is again. Some people look at this list and they see proficiency achieved here and they think, oh, it looks like it's already been done for this worker. I thought I was supposed to do something on the website. That can be a little visually confusing, but just remember you're looking to check off these little circles. And if you inadvertently check one off, just uncheck it. That's it for supervisor. So you log in, you look for projects, then you click your name, then you look for list, links, score sheet. I'm going to stop for questions. Just remember to unmute yourself.
Natalie, I have a question.
Okay.
What happens if you have a mixture of, let's say, proficient and non-proficient?
So on the non-proficient items, we want you to go ahead and score those. We really discourage agencies from waiting until staff are 100% proficient before entering the data. And I'll show you the reason for that in just a moment. So it's okay. Let's say Sandy was proficient on that one. She's ready for her milestone 1 practice observation, but the supervisor doesn't feel like she's fully proficient on that practice observation yet. So he's going to go ahead and do the score sheet, but she's just not proficient. So she'll have to make another attempt. And there's no limit on the number of attempts that caseworkers can make. It can be 1, 2, 3, 5. We don't really police that too much, or really not at all. So it's not a problem if they're proficient on some items and not proficient on the others. It just means that they'll need to try again to achieve certification. And it does get tougher as they go along. So it's not unusual at all that a worker would need to make more than one attempt on some items. We just want supervisors to go ahead and score that data anyway, because it gives you really good information as an agency about where your staff need additional coaching and on what specific skills. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Does it have to be all the same family?
It does not. I mean, in an ideal world, that would be great, but oftentimes caseworkers are not able to work with the same family through the entire certification process. So it's not required that it be the same family.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I'm gonna, oh, sorry.
Okay.
Go
Do the worker
ahead.
have to be proficient in all 8 tasks in order to be certified?
That's a really good question. Thank you for reminding me to say this. The work products that are required are the genogram, the family agreement, the milestone 3 action plan, and the milestone 4 action plan. Those are the paper work products that have to be submitted. And then they have to do 2 of 4 practice observations. The milestone 1 practice observation is required. Then they can choose with their supervisor what their second practice observation is going to be. They're all listed here because we don't know what folks are going to choose. So we want to make them all available. But let's say Sandy does the genogram family discussion guide, which is required, the milestone 1 practice observation, which is required, family agreement required. Let's say she chooses not to do milestone 2 practice observation because she's already pretty skilled with that, and her supervisor maybe wants her to do the milestone 3 practice observation because she needs maybe some coaching in that one. So she chooses that as her second practice observation. She does have to do the milestone 3 action plan, that is a requirement, and the milestone 4 action plan. Then she is eligible for certification. What that means is that Maria or someone in the agency is going to confirm that all the electronic score sheets have actually been submitted. And then there's an application that you'll be able to get from Maria in which Sandy caseworker and Joe supervisor fill it out together, submit it to Maria. She checks to make sure they're all there, and then she submits it to us, and we certify that caseworker or supervisor or director. Supervisors are eligible for certification when at least 2 caseworkers that report to you are certified, and a director is eligible for certification when at least 1 supervisor that reports to them has achieved certification. I know that's a lot of info there. Just wanted to make that process clear.
About the process of the supervisor and the caseworker partnering to get, I'm assuming it will either be me or Sherry or Nadia, the information and what that would look like.
For certification eligibility?
Yes.
Okay, so they would, and it can be pretty straightforward. They would just reach out to you and say, my caseworker is certification eligible. All the work products have been completed. They're proficient. And then the 1-page application would be filled out and sent to you. What the application asks for is when they were trained and when they went through initial training. If they're supervisor, when they went through initial and supervisor training, there's a date for that. And then Maria, I will review with you how you would go and look to make sure those score sheets are actually there. It's more than just making sure these are all checked off. You actually will be checking to make sure the data that was submitted is there. But that's probably too much for this group because it's more on your plate to do that. But I can talk about it a little in just a moment when I show you that score sheet data, where that goes and how to analyze it. Any other questions from a supervisor perspective? The only thing, I'm going to just revert out of the supervisor account. And sorry, this was a little faster today. Let's say that you're a director or a manager. I'm not sure the term at HeartShare, but let's say Sarah Smith here is a program director. I'm going to show you what it looks like when a director logs in. It's basically exactly the same. But what a director will see under their projects is the list of supervisors that report to them. So if 3 to 4 supervisors report to you as a director, maybe more, maybe less, you should see all those supervisory names there. So let's say Sarah, program director, is interested in how Amy or Joe's, we'll go back to Joe's, how his team is progressing towards certification. He's simply, or Sarah is going to click Joe's name, go to the list, and we'll see what's been checked off. So it's just really similar to what I described, but you have more projects inside your account, whereas the supervisor only should have 1 project in their account. And if you haven't sorted this out, we organize the site by projects, and a project is a supervisory team. Directors are not individual projects. If a director happens to be scoring work products for a supervisor, let's say the supervisor is out for some reason, they're going to access those score sheets the same way. They're just going to go choose a project and go to links, and the score sheets will be there for them. And they click the one they want and they just enter data. I'm going to show you quickly where those score sheets go. Just to review, when this is filled out and submit is clicked, remember I said it leaves sbcimplementationweb.com website and goes to a database. This is where it goes. Only your implementation team, Sherry, Maria, maybe a few other folks at HeartShare would have access to this data. They can view it at any time. What I've pulled up here is another agency outside of New York, but there's a lot of data here to demonstrate how this works. So what you see here, I happen to be on the Genogram Family Discussion Guide data for this particular agency, but this is all the score sheets that have been entered by this agency going back to 2017 or so. What you see in blue across the top, these are just the questions on that score sheet. Each column corresponds to a particular question. I'm clicking on the report tab because this is where it gets really useful for your agency. What you see here is some pie charts. Each pie chart corresponds to a question on the genogram. So what you see here, this is agency-wide for this particular program. On question 1 on the genogram, 85% of their staff are scoring proficient on that question, which is great. 14% of their staff are not quite proficient on question 1 on the genogram. Question 2, 71% of their staff are proficient, 28.69% are not. This is why we want you to go ahead and enter data, even if they're not fully proficient, because this information is so useful to you. Let's say you're doing an agency-wide training, a lunch and learn on genograms. If the whole agency is present, you're going to know where to spend your time in the coaching. Question 2, question 5, they're really struggling there. So Maria, if you're have the opportunity to do that, once you have access to this data, it will help you pinpoint how to focus. You can also filter this by location. So for this agency, I'm choosing metro region. If you're only doing a training with the metro region, You really need to focus on this question. Do the notes and genogram identify those who are willing and able to improve safety for the children as well as those who may be a cause for concern? You could spend your whole hour making sure they really understand that question and what's needed. You're also able to filter by supervisory team. You can plug in a particular supervisor. For this agency, Diane, first 4 questions, 100% proficient, great, but 50% of her staff are missing that question number 5. So if she's meeting with her team, they're focusing on this particular work product, she knows how to spend her time. Rather than folks saying, we need more training in SBC, this tells you exactly where folks need additional coaching. So Maria and Sherry will have access to this data as you all start to enter it, and it will become very useful towards elevating your entire staff towards certification.
I have a question. So
Okay.
just to clarify, if supervisors are not entering proficient or not proficient, it will not be reflected in this data. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It only shows data that's actually been entered.
This is also very helpful for me as I'm doing more initial trainings because it shows me, hey, Maria, maybe you need to be a little bit more thorough in explaining some of these concepts because it seems like program-wide folks are still struggling. So maybe it's the initial training, maybe we need to have a refresher. So it's overall great to be entering this regardless of proficiency.
And it works the same. There's a tab for each work product. I was showing you genogram. This is the family agreement, milestone 3 action plan, milestone 4 action plan. So this is real-time data. If you happen to be looking at this, Maria or Sherry, while one of your supervisors is entering data and you click the refresh button, it will auto-populate. So you have access to this at any time. There's no login information. You can only view the data and run reports. You're not able to edit it, but if something needed to be edited, let's say an incorrect case ID number was entered or something, we can change that on our end. It's not a big deal. But just so you know, folks, when you click submit, that data actually goes somewhere and it's really useful to your implementation team. So don't be afraid to enter data, even if they're not proficient. It's so useful.
I have a question, Natalie.
Okay.
Okay, so is there any time frame that within this period of time, case planner, since starting from the first genogram to milestone 4, is there any time frame or else it's gonna expire or anything like that?
It doesn't expire. We encourage folks to have momentum towards certification though. If they've been through training, they've been through case consultations, or they do those regularly with their supervisory team, there's no reason that they should not be submitting work products and doing field observations really often, you know, every couple of weeks, if I don't know, monthly at the minimum. If they're serious about certification, I don't think they should delay, because those skills just, if you're not really thinking about it and using it, it gets a little rusty. So we don't have a hard time limit though, and this does not expire.
Question?
Oh, go ahead, Freda, go ahead.
So we submit it, and if we think that it's proficient, we're submitting it. Does it go to a secondary person before it comes to you? Or does it come straight to you and then you let us know whether or not it is actually proficient?
Oh, do you mean the actual work products? So we do not look at the work products themselves. That happens internally in the agency. So Maria or your directors, who's ever sort of monitoring that certification process, they're going to want to check periodically that the data that's being entered is, and compare it to the work product, so that folks know that yes, these scores of proficient or not proficient, there's inner rate of reliability, everyone's on the same page about what proficiency looks like, but that checking happens within the agency. Once a certification application is submitted to us, then we're relying on Maria, and we occasionally pull information too from agencies, but we're relying on Maria that this is in fact proficient and that this person is actually eligible. But from our end, we're managing the website and this database. We send out reports to agencies on that sort of big picture. But that should be an internal process in the agency.
Okay, thank you.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
How long after the initial training do you recommend supervisors start assessing for proficiency?
They need to be doing supervisor seminars, which is discussed in the certification manual. So initial training, then supervisor training, then case consultations. I know folks are at different points in SBC training in your agency, but after case consultations, supervisor seminars should be happening monthly, where it's a time for your supervisors to come together and practice scoring work products. So everyone would bring some examples of the Genogram Family Discussion Guide from their team. You guys would use the certification manual and discuss why something is proficient, why it isn't, just practicing scoring before people start entering data. So let's say at the end of supervisor training and they're in the case consultation phase for 6 to 8 weeks, let's say, then after that supervisor seminar should happen. Let's say the first one is about Genogram Family Discussion Guide. There's no reason that you guys can't all log in to the website and people start scoring together.
Yeah, that's kind of what we had started doing in this space, so we can do that on a monthly basis. I guess my question is how long after the case planners take the initial training? Do you
Okay. I think as soon as possible, they should hit the ground running. And maybe you set the timeline in the agency. I mean, we don't really dictate timelines that are so hard and fast, but agencies can set that. You can set the bar on expectations. So if you say within 2 weeks, they need to submit assuming they're in the field and working with families, they should be doing that Genogram Family Discussion Guide. So there's no reason they wouldn't submit one for consideration for proficiency. And if they achieve it, then that's one off their list.
Thank you. My next question, I hope my colleagues on this call don't hate me for asking this question, but is there a way to track which supervisors are actually assessing for proficiency?
Well, when you log into this database for HeartShare, you'll be able to see the supervisory names that have entered data.
I see.
You can also run reports in SBCimplementation.com that will show you, it only shows you activity. It doesn't show you who's not active. So you'll have to sort of work backwards, I guess, but it will show you when tasks have been checked off in the website.
Okay.
So you have 2 ways to monitor it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So
Okay.
this is about actually the supervisor page, and it had the 6 case consultations on there.
Yeah.
So do we as supervisors mark off once we've done, or are we asking, or is it are we being rated for proficiency on our case consultations, or we're just doing them?
No, you're just showing evidence that you have done them with your team. So let's say when you get your invitation to SBCimplementation.com, if you've already had 3 case consultations with your team, you can go ahead and check those off. You have the opportunity to make some notes about them in here. I'm hovering my cursor over the add comment. So I click that. I can type some notes in here about the case consultation. who presented, who was in attendance, how it went. You don't want to put any confidential client info on the website, but you can keep it brief and still make a comment. It will ask you if you want to notify people, then you can select people to send an email to that goes from this website with your comments. So say I did a case consultation on April 25th and these folks were here, so-and-so presented, lasted X amount of time. You know, there's no like specific guidance on what you have to enter there, but it's an option if you want to do more than just check off the task.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question. This actually goes back to something before. Now, if you were previously certified, and I know we're going through this again.
Yes.
You, I would imagine that you have to go through the certification yet again.
Yes. Yes, we
Okay.
decided that you have to do it again. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry I answered the question.
No, that's okay. Thank you
Because
for
we discussed
answering.
this already, and
Yeah.
because it's
Okay.
all new people and it's all new people and it's all new training. And so it makes sense that we would want to see it, your team, as if you have 2 people on your team that are certified, then you will become certified.
Okay.
Maria, while we're sitting here, I'm going to go ahead and send you this desk guide. I had it all ready to go. So folks, if you could send that to them, it will, as I said, guide you through all the steps of logging into sbcimplementation.com and entering data. One thing about the website, I think it works the best if you use Chrome as your browser. You don't have to, but those score sheets are linked in Google Drive, and I think it's just a smoother process if you can use Chrome. There is an app on the App Store called Teamwork PM, P for project, M for management. That is the sort of host website for us. And if you want to, you can download that app and enter data on a tablet or smartphone. You just have to log in the same way. I usually just use it on my desktop browser, but that is an option that you have. Any other questions? I'm going to stop my screen share then. And thank you all so much for your attention. We're here for you. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Maria, I'll be in touch with some additional resources. And thank you for having me today.